and welcome to a Bit of Everything's top 10 movies of 2019 so far. I'm Henry Higgins and I'm flying solo today as Josh is not here. So I'm going to run through the top 10 movies that we've seen this year. Some me and Josh, some just myself. Now the top 3 could have easily switched around. But they're in the order that they're in now, and we're going to stick with that. So without any further ado, here's the quick countdown of the top 10 movies of 2019 so far, according to me and Josh. Number 10. Number 10, we have Godzilla, King of Monsters, the sequel to the Godzilla movie from, I think, 2014. Which relaunched the franchise from an American's perspective. It's also a follow-up to Kong Skull Island, which itself was set before Godzilla. It's part of this monsterverse that they're doing pretty well in creating. Godzilla King of Monsters was a really good movie. It introduced a lot of great elements. King Ghidorah was fantastic. The fact they were all done, Rodan, Mothra, they were all done really well. But I'd say King Ghidorah was fantastic. They did a really good job of that, especially with the 3 heads being independent minds, for lack of a better way of putting it. Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, Millie Bobby Brown, Sally Hawkins, Charles Dance was fantastic in the movie. Going in, they made a big point of not saying who Charles Dance's character was. So I figured that he was actually going to be Tom Hiddleston's character from Kong Skull Island. But that turned out not to be the case. That would have been a nice tie-in. Ken Watanabe returns from Godzilla. It's a really good movie. The monster effects were fantastic. And the battles were really, really good. At some points Josh and I both got genuinely annoyed in the right sense. I don't think it was as good as Godzilla, but I think that also stems from, again, whenever you see something for the first time. I know I hadn't seen Godzilla for the first time, but this Godzilla, where an American studio finally got it right. So that's in our number 10 slot. Number 9. And in number 9, we have Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. It's a Netflix movie on the crimes of Ted Bundy. And it starred Zac Efron totally shedding his hunk High School Musical past by encapsulating one of America's most notorious serial killers in Ted Bundy. Some people accused it of making Ted Bundy sympathetic. It does not do that. It is just a very powerfully acted movie over a period of time when Ted Bundy was committing his crimes, and how the toxic fandom of serial killers can elevate someone beyond being a murderer into a celebrity. And also how someone can see the psychosis of not understanding what you're doing is wrong in this situation. In the movie version, which does cover quite accurately what happened in real life, after the credits it actually does show you a lot of the real life Ted Bundy stuff. Like the interviews in prison, the court case where the title comes from, and the judge mentioned that to Ted Bundy, that his crimes were extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile. Haley Joel Osment is really good in it as well. There's Lily Collins, Kaya Scodelario. UK people would know her from Skins. She was Effie in Skins. Everyone really plays their part really well in this movie. And it's not the usual, it's a very downbeat movie, obviously with the subject matter. But if you haven't seen it, I urge you to check it out. It's just a really well acted masterpiece. Number 8. And at number 8, we have the most recent movie on the list, which is Dr. Sleep. The sequel to The Shining, Stephen King wrote in 2013, I believe. Um, the movie, Mike Flanagan, the director, did a wonderful job of taking the source novel, which obviously comes from as a sequel to King's source novel, and also tying in the Kubrick movie, The Shining, from 1980. Because the movie takes a lot of liberties with the source novel, so trying to marry it all together was really, it could have been challenging, but Mike Flanagan did an amazing job on it. Ewan McGregor is fantastic as an adult Danny Torrance. Rebecca Ferguson is just mesmerising on screen as Rose the Hat. She is absolutely stunningly gorgeous in this movie. I mean, she's gorgeous anyway, but in this movie, just the way she acts, the way she carries herself, there's an element of, you know, those people who are just, they don't even have to try, and they are just, you can't take your eyes away from them. That's Rebecca Ferguson in this movie. She's mesmerising in this. The supporting roles are all really well done as well, and it's quite nasty at times, quite gruesome. There are some creepy elements, as you would expect. If you've seen or read The Shining movie or novel, then there'll be little things here and there that will appeal to you. But if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, you can still enjoy this as a standalone movie. The references they will make sense to you anyway, because a lot of them are, even if you've never seen The Shining, I guarantee you've seen the clips of the blood coming out of the elevator, the twins, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of nice references. As a standalone, it works as well. Fantastic movie. It is the most recent one that I've seen on the list, so maybe there's a little bias there as well because it's the freshest in my mind. But it's still on release. Go and see it. Doctor Sleep is just a fantastic horror film, and I hope that it gets the credit that it deserves. Number 7. Up next is Shazam! The first of the major comic book movies to make the list. Long-term viewers of the channel will know, obviously, we're big on comic book movies, so you're expecting this list to be filled with them. However, this is the first one on the list. There are more, as you would expect, but this is the first one. And this was a big risk for DC. Now, Josh and I enjoyed the DCEU movies. Man of Steel was great. Batman v Superman was really, really good as well. Justice League had its moments, but you could see where it had been butchered by the studio. But with word of the Snyder Cut being complete, according to various sources, including Jason Momoa, who was in the thing, and is friends with Zack Snyder, there is hope that the Snyder Cut will get released. It will justify what his vision was, and maybe that DCEU can get back on track. We do have Wonder Woman 1984, which is coming out next year, I believe, which continues the DCEU. And this movie, Shazam, was the first one after the Justice League roasting, and obviously takes it in a much lighter tone with the character, so it was a big risk, and it did really, really well. Smashed it at the box office. Zachary Levi as Shazam, main character, was fantastic. So obviously he's still mentally, the character is still a child, who was played by Asher Angel in the movie. He was a revelation. Jack Dylan Grazer as his friend was brilliant. Jimon Hounsou, who appeared in a number of comic book movies, DC and Marvel this year, was also good in the limited screen time that he had as the older Shazam. And it's a nice deconstruction of the superhero genre. It's really well played for laughs. And then the introduction of Mark Strong really shifts the tone. Until he comes in as the main villain, Dr. Savannah, and shifts the tone. It's comedy. It's almost an out-and-out comedy. Dark undertones like the best comedy always has, but it's just them having fun, the fact that he's got these powers, what they can do with these powers. just a kid showing off, basically. And then Dr. Savannah comes in and he realizes that there's someone just as powerful as him in time. And as a kid, he gets scared. And it's really, really brilliantly done. The effects are great. And it is part of the DCEU. They do tie it in nicely with Freddy, Billy Batson's friend, foster brother, being the fanboy, being us, basically. And Shazam was fantastic. Shazam was just a great movie. It was a great time. Sets up sequels. Sets up Black Adam, who was meant to be in this movie, but they decided to make it as a standalone. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, has long been touted to being Black Adam, and I believe production has started, or pre-production has definitely started, with regards to a script and such like. So it looks like we're definitely going to get a Black Adam movie before we get a Shazam 2. I could see Shazam 2 being Shazam versus Black Adam, leading into a third movie where they team up, because Black Adam, while he's a villain, he's also considered an anti-hero. Mr. Mind was also teased at the end of the movie, so we'll have a look and see where they go with that. But yeah, Shazam, the original Captain Marvel, for people keeping score, was an unmitigated success for DC. Cleansed the palette from the bleakness of Justice League and set them up for a new direction, which hopefully Wonder Woman will carry on. Hopefully we do get more Justice League movies. Hopefully the Snyder Cut gets released and the DCU can continue on. We do have The Batman coming up, but I think that is outside the DCU, or it's definitely a prequel because he's playing a young Batman. So it's possible that it's in the DCEU, but not before everything, because obviously Wonder Woman, like Captain America in the MCU, was originally set in the World War. But where they go from here, I don't know. But Shazam set them up for success following the bleakness of Justice League, and we'll just see where they go. Number 6. Pipping Shazam is actual Captain Marvel from the MCU, in at number 6. Now, this movie got a lot of negative hype in the pre-release hubbub. A lot of very insecure men taking issue with what they believe Brie Larson said, which she didn't actually say. Review bombing the crap out of this. Now, people say, oh, it didn't actually happen. Yes, it did. This had it. Batwoman has had it. Terminator Dark Fate got it as well. Even some people calling it Terminator Dyke Fate, because they're strong women. I mean, have they never seen a Terminator movie? Every Terminator movie has had a strong female character. Even the first one, Sarah Connor obviously didn't start out strong, but she ended it strong. So a lot of the pre-release press was about that rather than the movie. Now, the movie is set in the early 90s, so it predates everything we've seen in the MCU, apart from the Captain America World War II stuff. But it predates Iron Man, predates the Avengers. In fact, this is what gives Nick Fury the idea to call it the Avengers Initiative. We find out how Nick Fury loses his eye. The Flurkin is fantastic. Everything about this movie was great. Jude Law as Young Rog was perfect. He effectively gaslights Carol Danvers, Vers as they call her, by stating all of these things where he's basically trying to stop her becoming her full potential. That pays off near the end of the movie. The special effects are great. The tie-ins to what will come is fantastic. Ronan the Accuser appearing. Jimon Hanzo as Korath also makes an appearance, making his second appearance in the MCU after Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Ben Mendelsohn is fantastic as Talos, leader of the Skrulls. You've seen in the trailer. The de-aging effects on Phil Coulson and Nick Fury, Clark Gregg and Samuel L. Jackson, especially on Samuel L. Jackson because he's in the movie for pretty much the entire runtime, they're phenomenal. You genuinely don't get any Uncanny Valley stuff. Like they did when they tried to do Michael Douglas in the first Ant-Man movie. it was good, but it kind of threw your brain off a little bit. With Samuel L. Jackson, it's virtually flawless. You are looking at 1990 Samuel L. Jackson. It's great. The whole thing is fantastic, and the movie, the movie's a lot of fun. People say that she doesn't learn anything. She's so overpowered, but that's the point. Her powers aren't her power. It's overcoming everything that's put in front of her to stop her realizing her potential with these powers. That's the growth. That's the character growth. And the film itself is just great. It's great fun, great action. Josh absolutely loved it. It was the perfect movie to have after Infinity War, because obviously Infinity War ended rather badly for everyone. So it made sense to have this movie to show who Captain Marvel is before she actually appears in Endgame. Now, Endgame had actually been filmed prior to Captain Marvel, so all of those whiners and whingers, let's just call them what they are, all of those whiners who were saying that, oh, she's going to be shoehorned into Endgame, didn't know what they were talking about, because her role in Endgame had already been done. It had already been decided. So of the two Captain Marvel movies, Marvel's Captain Marvel hits Shazam to the number 6 spot, and it absolutely trounced it at the box office, which was to be expected. The MCU is a juggernaut at the moment. Captain Marvel did over $1 billion worldwide, making it a success despite what the MRA Light wanted it to be. Number 5. And in number 5, we continue with the MCU, and this time it's the first movie post Endgame, the last movie of Phase 3, and it's Spider-Man Far From Home. And this movie had a lot to follow up on. Endgame ended with the death of Iron Man, the death of Black Widow, Captain America effectively leaving the team by going back to the past to live his life with Peggy, and the mantle of tech genius in the Avengers had fallen to Peter Parker. And Peter Parker is trying to find his place in a world where Iron Man is no longer there. And Tony Stark was his mentor, not just in the Avengers, obviously, as a father figure, because he's never had one in his life. And he's gone now, and they do a fantastic job of playing with the grief of that, but also just the fun of kids being on holiday. Because obviously, Far From Home has multiple meanings in the movie. Mysterio ostensibly is far from home because he's from a different Earth. Peter Parker is far from home because he's travelling Europe with his friends. So there's a lot there, and then at the end, there's the sneak reveal, obviously, that Talos has been Nick Fury, and he's far from home as well. So there's multiple variants of Far From Home in the movie. The highlight of the trailer, the fanboy part of the trailer, was obviously Hydro Man, fishbowl, full effect, battling the Hydro Man elemental, and anyone with any comic knowledge kind of knew where it was going, but they did such a great job of making you doubt yourself, even if you've been a long-term reader of the comics, or even just a long-term knowing what happens in Marvel lore when it comes to Quentin Beck. But the whole way they did Mysterio for the modern era was amazing. It really was. It was stunningly done. Jake Gyllenhaal killed it as Quentin Beck, both as Quentin Beck, the hero he was portraying in the movie, and Quentin Beck, the actual bitter ex-Stark employee. The scene midway through the movie where it's the illusion scene of Spider-Man being totally overwhelmed by everything that he sees. Mysterio throwing all various things, including Zombie Iron Man, which was a brilliant touch. That entire scene is Mysterio. They took what was considered only possible in the panels of a comic book or an animated cartoon and put it into live action. And everything about it was perfectly done, including how they used the holographic projections based on the real world geography of what they have as the actual building they're in. And it's all perfect. Everything about it is perfect. The playing on Parker's weaknesses is perfectly done. The reasoning behind Team Mysterio doing what they do, perfectly done. The actual callback to Iron Man 1. So linking it to the entire MCU, everything about it was perfectly done. Everything was perfectly done. How they got the elementals, how they did the damage, everything had a logical, real world, obviously heightened technology, but real world reason for it being able to have happened. As Thor said in the first Thor movie, any technology sufficiently advanced would be considered magic. So when you're watching what Mysterio can do, it seems to be magic. And it works. The revelations work, the character growth for Peter Parker works, the nods to previous MCU stuff works. Jon Favreau is Happy Hogan. The scene in the airplane where he shows Parker the lab and Peter's making his own suit, his own technologically advanced suit for the first time, and just the look on Happy's face. That was, to me, that wasn't just Happy Hogan reminiscing about Tony Stark. That was Jon Favreau reminiscing about what he started. Because make no mistake, Jon Favreau directing the first Iron Man movie is why we have an MCU. Another director may have misfired on that film and we never got anything beyond Iron Man 1. Jon Favreau, thank you very much. Everyone else in the movie, thank you very much. J.K. Simmons appearing as J. Jonah Jameson in the mid-credits. They credited everyone involved for keeping that quiet. Absolutely everyone involved for keeping that a secret as much as they did. Because when he popped up on screen as J. Jonah Jameson, I lost my shit. I genuinely lost my shit. With that revelation, we were off to the races. Then the whole Sony Marvel thing happened, and it looked like we weren't going to get any more Peter Parker in the MCU. Luckily, they've ironed all that out, so we're definitely getting a third MCU Spider-Man movie in 2022, I believe. I think it's been snuck into 2022. The conclusion of the MCU trilogy of Spider-Man movies, they do like the trilogy, so we've had 3 Thor movies, we've had 3 Iron Man movies. We'll have 3 Spider-Man movies, and then he can be in Sony's Marvel Universe and the MCU. So the crossover with Venom's a possibility as well. But we are now have Phase 3 finished. We're in Phase 4. For anyone who watched the San Diego Comic Con and various things from there, Phase 4 is massive. Movies, TV shows. Then we've got Phase 5 to come, and they haven't announced much from there either. So let's see where the MCU goes from here. Number 4. Taking the number 4 spot is Brightburn. Now this isn't a comic book movie, although it's obviously it's a super villain origin story in this sense, and it's essentially bad Superman is what it is. What would happen if Superman was evil? Now there have been comics, what if stories, Elseworld stories for bad Superman. In the comics there is a version called Ultraman. But for this, it's basically the Superman story. But what if Superman was a prick? That's essentially what it is. So we have Elizabeth Banks and David Denman as the Man Pa Kent, basically. Jackson A. Dunn playing Brightburn, the character. It's a bit of a slow burn story to begin with. It hits the regular beats. Alien ship lands with a baby inside. Parents can't have kids of their own, decide to adopt him, pretend he is theirs. Shenanigans ensue. So he's growing up, and he's a little bit weird, as you would expect, because he's not from here. So he knows there's something wrong, or he knows there's something different about him. And as he grows up, he starts to get these messages that he's supposed to take over the world. And it builds from there. His powers start manifesting. But he's mean and he starts playing with it, and it's pretty gruesome. It's a really gruesome movie. Again, this is another one that Josh hasn't seen. A lot of the gore is on screen, and you see the trailer gives little bits away, but not the trailer cuts away a lot, whereas the movie, well, obviously the trailer cuts away. The trailer cuts away a lot, whereas the movie doesn't, and the movie stays on it, and it's quite disturbing at times. Plays with the tropes of the superhero genre a lot. There's certain aspects of it you think this is going to happen when something else happens, and it ends on a really downer note. But it's a perfect movie. It sets up a sequel. I don't think they'll do one, but it does set up a sequel really, really well. Nice little anti-Justice League nods as well with some of the other superhero characters that are alluded to but are villains in this movie. They definitely allude to Aquaman and Wonder Woman. So there is the potential there for a follow-up to Brightburn, because in any of these stories, if there is villains, there's got to be heroes of some description. So they could do something with it, but Brightburn is phenomenal. Brightburn is an amazingly dark movie, and a lot of credit of that has to go to David Yarovsky for directing it. While it was a low-budget effort, none of the effects look. And while it was a relatively low-budget effort compared to a lot of the other movies on the list, none of the effects seem shoddy. Everything looks great, and I heartily recommend you go and see it. If you've been put off by it, or if you thought about it but haven't got around to it, please do. Order it on Netflix, buy the DVD, however you can get to view it. Just view it. It's a really, really good movie, and the more people who watch it, talk about it, the more money it makes on the home release market, the more likely we will get a follow-up. Number 3. And now we come to the top 3, and this is where it was tough to put them in any kind of order. Realistically, had these all tied for number 1, but I had to put them in order for the list. And the number 3 is Joker. Standalone movie, an R-rated movie that is closing in on $1 billion box office. That's unheard of for an R-rated movie. I mean, it's already the highest rated R-rated movie. It's already got the biggest box office for an R-rated movie, overtook the 2 Deadpool films. And it's done this without China. China, over the last 3-5 years, has been the biggest growth area for movies with regards to releases and box office takings and such like. So you've seen some movies have they've been accused of pandering to China, for having some kind of Chinese elements in the movies, of China-friendly stuff. So for a film to get close to $1 billion, an R-rated movie to get close to $1 billion, without the help of that market, it's astounding. And Joker deserves it. Todd Phillips, they keep referring to him as the hangover guy. And that, it's like a millstone, it's like an insulting term, it's like a millstone around his neck. And yeah, he did direct the Hangover movies, and the first Hangover movie and the third Hangover movie were great. The second Hangover movie wasn't as good because it kind of really retread the first one, but it was still enjoyable. But he's done other things. He's not just a Hangover guy. And with this, he's made his name. He can get any gig he wants at this point. And they've taken the Joker. DC has done. It's almost a standalone. Well, it is a standalone, but it's an Elseworlds movie where it's an origin story for the Joker, and a lot of people balked at that already. But there's been multiple origin stories for the Joker on film, in comics. One of the most famous ones is obviously the Jack Napier from Batman '89, where Batman created Joker. The Red Hood falling into the vat in The Killing Joke is another origin story. But as he says in that tale, if I'm going to have an origin story, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Sometimes he remembers it one way, sometimes he remembers it the other. So you take this, he's an unreliable narrator to begin with. So you take this movie with a pinch of salt. You go into it, and Joaquin Phoenix absolutely blows the screen away. He's basically on camera for virtually the whole movie, and every scene he steals. He is amazing, absolutely undeniable as Arthur Fleck. And as you watch the movie, again, one of the big things people were worried about was would this make you sympathise with a murdering maniac? And the short answer is initially yes, but then you realise he's pushing it too far. And society is to blame, but society is to blame for a lot of real life maniacs out there. Some of them are just evil, some of them are just nasty, nasty people, but some people have been put in the position they're in due to societal ills. And this plays on that. But again, you have to understand who's telling the story. It's an unreliable narrator. And Todd Phillips does a masterful job of misdirecting, is this really happening? But the end of the movie plays into it. And the end of the movie plays into this. Because you basically have Arthur Fleck in an Arkham room, which you saw him briefly earlier in the movie as a flashback. But is he there after the riot at the end of the movie? Has he been captured and is he there now? Has he always been there? Is this him telling his story to the psychiatrist? And is that what she won't get? She won't get the joke because the whole film has been the joke so far. Joker is a film that when you come out of it, everyone you know will have a slightly different interpretation of what happened, what didn't happen, what was real, what wasn't real, and what could it mean. And it's expertly acted. The violence at times is shocking, but it's designed to be so. It's intentionally shocking in the right way. And I genuinely hope we do get more of this version of the Joker. Now, not necessarily Arthur Fleck, because it could be that he was never Arthur Fleck and he's made it up. And there's a channel that I watch regularly called New Rockstars, and on there, there's a guy called Eric Voss who puts out fantastic videos. Go to New Rockstars and give them a watch. And he posited the theory that I am completely on board with. It was something I kind of had an idea that could happen, but he expanded on it. And it's essentially this: we do a follow-up Joker movie, and it's Joaquin Phoenix in the same room telling a story to a different psychiatrist about his origin. And you either get Todd Phillips in to direct it again, or you get someone else. And it's a completely different story to this movie. It's a completely different origin. A lot of things change. He's maybe not even called Arthur Fleck. He looks the same because obviously that's what Joaquin Phoenix looks like, but it's a completely different take on the Joker. You could then do a third and a fourth movie with the same thing. It's an anthology series now. It's his own what if, where he's telling a different psychologist a different story. You could then introduce Dr. Harleen Quinzel in the third or the fourth movie. Tie it in with what we know. And it could even be that Joaquin Phoenix isn't the Joker and he's just telling stories that he's heard of the Joker to make a name for himself. But the idea of the unreliable narrator telling different stories and different directors giving them different aesthetics and different styles, to me, would be perfect. It'd be the perfect non-DCEU stuff to keep it going. And because he has multiple origin stories, it would fit canonically with who the Joker is. Eric Voss, your idea is fantastic. Warner Brothers, take note, go down that route. Number 2, taking the penultimate spot on the list is John Wick 3 Parabellum. And John Wick franchise is just one of those. The first John Wick is fantastic, but whenever you do something artistic, whether it's a song, video game, actual painted art, write a book, write a story, do a TV show, do a film, you never 100% know how it's going to latch on with the audience. You never know how people are going to take it. Some things are set up to be successes and they bomb for whatever reason. Other things are released and they have this slow build and this slow burn until they're this mythical thing, like John Wick himself is. So the first John Wick movie was like that, and it basically gave Keanu Reeves a career renaissance with this character. So then we got John Wick 2, which built on the world of John Wick with the Continental and the Assassin's Guild and everything else. Then we move on to John Wick 3. And what I like about the John Wick movies is that they kind of just go from, if you watch them all together, it's one long story. Because one bleeds into two and two bleeds into three. And in this one, it picks up almost exactly from where two left off. Halle Berry is a fantastic addition to the cast. Lawrence Fishburne as the Bowery King returns. He's fantastic. Ian McShane is wonderful as always. Mark Dacascos is phenomenal as the John Wick super fanboy assassin said to kill him. The action is as overblown as you would expect, and it's just such a stunningly artistic, violent movie. The fight scenes, the choreography, the gunfights, the knife play, horses versus motorbikes, the surprising ending, the fact that it sets up a fourth movie, everything about this is just perfect. It couldn't take the number one spot, but John Wick Chapter 3 is the best non-comic book movie of the year. Arguably, it could have taken the top spot. As I said, the 1, 2, and 3 positions, I debated with myself quite a bit. Keanu Reeves is fantastic. Chad Stahelski, director of all 3 John Wick movies, is fantastic behind the lens as well. The cinematography, just the way everything is shot, the way everything is lit. The scene in the Continental's like secret room, which is just all glass. Filming in glass is ridiculously hard because all of the reflections that you can have. 13 Ghosts is my favourite movie of mine, and they did a similar thing with the shot in a glass house. That's a logistical nightmare. So to do something as high quality as this in that environment, gunfire, cuts, action, everything is. My hat's off to the cinematography, the direction, everyone involved. John Wick 3 is, I believe, it's the perfect cap ender to the original trilogy, because it's obviously taken on a brand new tangent now. I don't know if they'll do 4, 5, and 6. They're definitely going to do a 4. And I believe Keanu Reeves loves this character so much that he'll keep coming back to them so long as they want to keep making them. And so long as they want to keep making them, I want to keep watching them. So John Wick Chapter 3 is our number 2 movie of 2019. Number 1. And our number 1 spot, to no surprise to probably anyone, is Avengers Endgame. How could it be anything else? 23 movies to get to this point. Culmination of 10 years of conjoined storytelling, including TV shows, however loosely linked they may be. Dozens of characters, dozens of stories, everything converging to this one point. Everyone involved in the MCU, the directors, the writers, Kevin Feige, obviously, the studio, Disney, all the actors, us as the fans, we've all earned the right to have this movie. This is comic book writ large on the screen. So many characters, everyone gets their own little piece. So many downbeat moments, because the heroes were defeated. That's the point. They lost, and they lost big. They lost huge. And in the chronology of the movies, even though Captain Marvel and Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp, were released after Infinity War, they're both set before it. So, in that situation, the actual chronology of the movies, it goes straight from Infinity War to Endgame. And the heroes lost, and they lost big. They lost half the universe. Not just half of Earth, people forget that sometimes. They lost half the entire universe. So all the planets and all the galaxies all across the universe, half of it gone. They were defeated, and they were defeated badly. Thanos, as a villain, won. He won. He achieved his victory, so he retired. He didn't want to rule the world. He didn't want to be a dictator. He didn't want anything else. He just had his goal to achieve balance, and he did it. Now, while it's flawed, because population growth will put us back to where we are within a generation or two anyway, but he achieved his goal. He then destroyed the Infinity Stone so they could never use it again, and was happy to retire. Then he was killed. And that was shocking, a decapitation in a Disney movie, in an MCU movie. But it's a rebuilding process. The heroes, again, even though they thought they could come back to it, they'll just get the stones and bring everyone back. They go, they find Thanos, they realise they can't get the stones are gone, and they've lost. They can't win. So we jump 5 years. So now we're actually in the future, from our present time, so we can met some chronology stuff that Spider-Man Homecoming gave the MCU, gave them a bit of a headache, can now be smoothed out because what they did. The movie itself, I mean, listen to that, right? So we end up 5 years in the future with Earth having to come to terms with people having been missing. People you love, gone. People have moved on, some people can't. Things have gone into a bit of disrepair. Because like half the population is gone. And then you've got to think as well, it's going to be things like airplanes where pilots disappeared, but not everyone on the plane disappeared, so then did that plane crash and they died anyway? There was a lot to take in there. So, tried to come to terms with it. It means that they've tried to come to terms with it. The Avengers continue to do what they do. Various points. Captain Marvel's now an Avenger. They are doing Avengey things all over the place. They're all in their own teams. They're trying to do their best, but they can't. And then Scott Lang, who's been stuck in the quantum realm, comes out. He gets out from the quantum realm. To him, it's only been, I believe it's only been like 5 days, maybe 5 weeks. But it's definitely been a very short time that he's been gone. Whereas for everyone else, it's obviously been 5 years. So he has no clue what's going on. So when he comes out, he then goes home to his house and finds that Cassie's grown up. She's not a teenager. And the family's still okay. So he's thankful for that. Then we get to the meat of the story, which is time travel. And as anyone who's ever watched a time travel movie or tried to write a time travel story, direct a movie or anything else will tell you, time travel is the biggest headache in storytelling because the paradoxes come almost immediately. And you just have to suspend your disbelief and just go with whatever rules of time travel they put in place. So the meat of the story now is obviously going back in time, visiting the old Avengers stories, which is done perfectly, and with a cast of characters. I mean, let me just run through before we go any further. Let me just run through. This is the main cast list. This isn't everyone in the movie. This is just the main cast list. So, and I'm looking down at my notes here for this. So we've got Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Chris Evans as Captain America, Mark Ruffalo There's the Hulk, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Don Cheadle as War Machine, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, Karen Gillan as Nebula, Danai Gurira, Benedict Wong, Jon Favreau, Bradley Cooper, Gwyneth Paltrow, Josh Brolin, Benedict Cumberbatch, Chadwick Boseman, Tom Holland, Zoe Saldana, Elizabeth Olsen, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Tom Hiddleston, Juan Clemente, Dave Bautista, Letitia Wright, William Hurt, Kobe Smulders, Winston Duke, Chris Pratt, Samuel L. Jackson, and Ross Marquand as Red Skull. And that's just the main listed cast. There's so many people in this movie. It's not even funny. And to logistically, for the Russo brothers to logistically get everyone together and everyone to have their part in the film, everyone to be able to do a little something, everyone have their own little story arc. Obviously, some of them have more bigger stories than others. For everyone to be in this movie, for everyone to be featured, for everyone to have a part to play, credit to every single person involved, the writers, the cinematographers, the directors, the actors, everything. It's a phenomenal logistical masterpiece. And before I continue on with explaining why it's the number one movie of our list, thank you everyone involved for giving it to us. But back to the movie. So we do the time heist section of the film, which is going back and forth, zipping here, there, and everywhere. And it revisits old Avengers stories to get the Infinity Stones together. We then have many different emotional beats, including Hulk realizing, is this why he was even created in the first place for this precise moment? Is he's the only one strong enough to survive using the gauntlet to bring everyone back? And then the heart-wrenching, uplifting moment of Hawkeye's phone ringing because it's his wife that's back. That was a phenomenal piece of work. It was so subtle, but it worked. It was perfect. But then it's shattered by Thanos arriving and blowing up the Avengers base, kicking in the third act of the movie, where everyone comes back. Everyone is here for the big, massive battle. And some people complained, oh, there was too many people on screen, you couldn't really follow what was going on. In a real life battle like that, there are too many people. You can't follow everyone. So you do get little bits and pieces here, but they do a brilliant job of, like they did in the first Avengers movie, where you go from, like, it's basically pairs battling together, so you go from one to the other quite seamlessly. And they did that in this movie. And it's fanboy service. That's what it is, and it just works amazingly well. Peter Parker returning, and the relief in Tony Stark's eyes. Phenomenal acting from Robert Downey Jr. there. You could feel the weight lifted from his shoulders that the kid was back. We then get into the end battle, the end of the movie. I am Iron Man, click, and the downbeat ending again. But they won, not without sacrifice, and then it plays back around again to the first Avengers movie, where Captain America's telling Tony Stark he's not the one to do the sacrifice play, and he was. And he sacrificed everything. He sacrificed himself to make sure this doesn't happen. That Thanos doesn't win. The universe is saved until the next big threat. He fulfilled his mission. And he will go down as the MCU's legacy character. The entire MCU hinged on, let's be honest, a B-string character at best, launching this entire franchise, and Robert Downey Jr. knocked it out of the park every single time. It's virtually impossible to think of Tony Stark and not think of Robert Downey Jr. That is how interlinked these people are. And while chronologically this is his last appearance, you've got to believe there's going to be ways to bring him back. I mean, he is in the Black Widow movie that's coming up next year, which is set between, I believe, Civil War and Infinity War. So it's after Civil War, so Natasha's on the run. That's pretty much all we really know about that so far. But after 10 years, he deserves to be able to ride off into the metaphorical sunset. Other highlights in the movie include Captain America lifting Mjolnir, and Thor not being upset but being ecstatic that he knew his friend was worthy. And then Captain America just going ham on Thanos with the hammer, channeling the lightning, doing the Thor hammer, Captain America's shield combo by himself, but Thanos still being able to overpower them and take them all down. Captain Marvel turning up, smashing through Thanos' ship, causing him to worry about what's going on. Captain Marvel coming down, taking a Thanos headbutt and holding back the full Infinity Gauntlet with no problems whatsoever, only for Thanos to hold the Power Stone in his hand and punch her away. So everyone got the resolution they wanted there. The people who enjoyed the Captain Marvel movie and the people who hated the Captain Marvel movie because they can't stand a strong woman. Then Thanos accepting his defeat in the same way he accepted his victory, with dignity and just vanishing away, leading us obviously into Spider-Man Far From Home, which we talked about earlier. Avengers Endgame made all the money. 2.8 billion at the box office, overtaking Avatar, and obviously it's going to have home release money as well, so it'll easily top $3 billion overall. It's a testament to the gamble Marvel took when they launched the first MCU movie in Iron Man. They basically took control of their destiny. Now that they have the Fox properties, X-Men, Deadpool, X-Men adjacent, Fantastic Four, they also have Blade back in the fold. I believe Punisher for cinema is back in the fold. They have so much coming up as well. The Marvel juggernaut shows no signs of stopping, and I, for one, am thankful for it. And Avengers Endgame is our favourite movie of the year. I imagine anyone watching this video has already seen it and understand why we put it at number one. But if you have any other movie on this list that you felt should have been number one, be it John Wick, Joker, Spider-Man, any other movie at all that you've seen this year. So if you agree with the list, if you disagree with the list, if you have anything you think shouldn't have been in there that is, or anything that should have been in there that isn't, or even if you think the placement's a bit jumbled up, leave your comments below, let us know what you think, and we will be back next week with another video. Please like, share and subscribe. See you soon. Goodbye.